Hey guys, how y'all doing? Bioniclesaurus here, and today we are going to be reviewing this beautiful little fella right here. This is the 2018 Safari LTD Anzu. Anzu, it's such a happy, pleasant name, and it's such a happy, pleasant figure. It's got problems. I'm just warning you now, but overall, I really like this one. This is another one like the Uintatherium where, personally, I wasn't a huge fan based off the promotional images, but having it in person, I'm like, oh, that's nice. My main compliment for this figure, like the most positive, just lovable aspect about this thing is the colors. Oh my goodness gracious me. This vivid, saturated green, this sort of periwinkle blue, the dark blood red with the white splashing up on the neck. Oh, that looks incredible. The execution of the paint job is not perfect, and we'll get to that, but the concept is amazing, and 90% of the execution is amazing as well. These are just beautiful looking colors. This is a figure that just stands out on the shelf and just looks gorgeous. I don't remember the last figure I reviewed where I pretty much just had nothing to say about its overall appearance other than just, it's beautiful, it's a piece of art, but this is a figure like that. I mean, just look at it. The pose helps too. The pose helps tremendously. Oh my gosh, it's not walking, it's running. And proper running poses are not as common as you'd think. This one though, look at that wide gait. Look at how widely spaced the legs and feet are. It's clearly going at a fairly impressive speed. It just looks so graceful, so naturalistic. The overall just silhouette is again just breathtakingly gorgeous. There is so much to love about this figure, but not all of it is positive. There's a loud car going by outside, so this seems like the perfect time to talk about some of the negatives. First of all, I mentioned that paint application is not perfect. Mine has, I think if I shine the light away, you'll be able to see it better. Yeah, it's got a little scuff on the white neck there, and it's also got a couple more. I'm going to shine the light even further away. Yeah, you can see them there. Boop and boop. And I know it looks like they're not that visible when the light is on them, but that's only the camera. No matter how bright the lights are, they still stand out in person. It's just a bit difficult to show. It's a shame. I wouldn't let it sway you because this is the only one I've ever seen with scuffs on the neck. Like, I've never seen anyone else have that problem with this figure, so it's clearly just mine. I got unlucky. Oh well. It's not too big of an objective complaint, just an unfortunate circumstance of mine. There are some other small issues, like the transition between the green and the red on the tail from top to bottom is a little rough in spots. You can see a little bit of red bleeding up there. On the tail plumage, you can see some of the red bleeding onto the blue. And I think there's one more. Oh yeah, on the hand, some of the red is bleeding onto the finger where it should be gray, and there's even some green poking out underneath there. So little things. It's not quite as well painted as a lot of Safari's more recent stuff, but it's really not too bad. There's not too much bad to say there, just some minor stuff. The one like genuinely major complaint I have with this figure is stability. Now, stability isn't something I find myself commenting on a lot. I don't know if I just don't review a lot of figures that are unstable, or I think it's just something that generally doesn't bother me that much for whatever reason. I display my figures, you know. I can wedge them in between other figures and secure them on the shelf, and it's fine. But this one has proven to be a bit tricky to actually get going on the shelf because its stability it's kind of real bad. I appreciate how skinny the legs are, how small the feet are. I love that this thing is gracile, bird-like, and proportionally accurate, but it is at a bit of a cost, unfortunately. It stands all right from some like directions, but I bet if I turn it around, yep. So even the very subtle slope of my desk is enough to ruin that short moment of success. And yeah, it's for, I guess it's the foot placement more than anything. Like, this one is really kind of out to the side, the back foot, but I feel like if it was more like pushed inward a little more, if the feet were more lined up, it might be a little more stable, it might work a little better. I don't know. Of course, it can work as a tripod, and that is important to mention. This wingtip can balance on the ground, and it looks fine. It's not a super awkward looking tripod. I do think that the arm posture itself is awkward looking. Like, this wing is properly folded up and looks really good, and then this one is like, hey, I'm just going to stick my arm out, don't mind me. That's a little bothersome. It's not nearly as bad in hand for whatever reason. It bothered me a lot more initially looking at the promo images for this one. But it's still a thing to talk about. And let's see, from this side, okay, yeah, it still works as a tripod, even turning it around with the slope. So, not too bad. Part of it could just be mine. I know some people have said theirs are fine, but I know I'm also not the only person to complain about this. I think just when you have legs that are this thin, they're bound to warp a little. But I have been doing some hot water surgery on this thing where I warm up the legs, bend them in place, hold them in place, then put them under cold water and sort of freeze them and solidify them again. And I've been doing that every day pretty much since I got it, once or twice a day. And it is making a difference. This thing couldn't stand at all when I first got it out, and now it sort of can bipedally. It can always be a tripod, so that is always a good standby. And again, it's not too unattractive of a tripod, so there you go. It is a complaint, but it's not the worst thing in the world. Another thing that people have talked about is the inconsistency of the sculpted detail. You know, you've got these really beautifully sculpted feathers up on the back and, of course, on the wings and tail. And then the areas of shaggier feathers, the areas representing more primitive fur-like feathers, are not nearly as crisp. They look very smooth, kind of muddled. And even like the feet, which should be scaly, are basically just smooth with a few lines sort of carved in there. And I would say that that is unfortunate. I would like to see this figure be detailed a little more like the new Sidipati that has come out this year. That has great looking, you know, more panaceous feathers, but it also has great looking, really convincing, shaggy feathered areas. But this one is not as bad as I thought it would be. One area I was concerned about initially, a car's going by again, it's super loud, I love when that happens. One area I was worried about based on the pictures was the head, because it looked really smooth and really undetailed, but in retrospect, it's not that bad. The crest and the beak would most likely both be covered in keratin in life, so they'd probably be pretty smooth anyway. And in fact, the facial expression looks really good. I like the eyes. They're well sculpted, well painted. And as far as accuracy is concerned, the overall accuracy is really, really good. And in terms of not just oviraptorids, but Anzu specifically, the real distinct feature are the subtle nuances of the head and the head shape, and they've done it really well here. So that's a massive compliment I have for this thing. It doesn't have a super typical oviraptor looking beak. It has a bit more of it's a little less curved and a little less parrot-like. It's interesting. So it's good to see that was properly reconstructed. It looks very iconic, very distinctly Anzu-like, although it's not the only genus to have a beak like that, but it's very well done. So real quick for a size comparison, we have, as usual, the Safari U Tyrannus. As you can see, this figure is not going to be super in scale. It's a bit on the big side, I believe, but it's not too bad. There are definitely bigger figures for small dinosaurs, so it's nice to see one that still, visually looks nice with most other dinosaur figures. And the other size comparison I have today is a very unique little figure. It is the Safari Ltd. Carnegie Collection Oviraptor from 2004. As you can see, it can barely stand even as a tripod because this one foot is like bent all the way in, and it's missing toes, and it's missing fingers, and it's covered in scratches. The paint's coming off the face. But this one is special because this is the first dinosaur figure I ever bought. I didn't buy it. It was a gift from my aunt and uncle, and I've had it since I was about 5, and there's so much nostalgia here. Every time I look at it, it just kind of makes me smile, but it doesn't hold up great anymore. It's not a very good Oviraptor figure. It has some positives to it, but especially mine being in such poor condition, I was hoping for a better one. I was hoping for a better representation of the whole family, even though this is not Oviraptor specifically. This totally does that. This is not Oviraptor, it's Anzu, but it's an Oviraptorid, or an Oviraptorosaur, and it's gorgeous. It's probably, along with the new Sidipati, one of the most accurate, true-to-life reconstructions of an Oviraptorid in figure form. It's beautiful, and I love this one. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10, and if you would like to purchase this beautiful, albeit flawed figure, or any of Safari's figures, you can of course do so at safariltd.com or at amazon.com/safariltd. Thank you very much for watching. Bioniclesaurus signing out. Look Look at this guy. Look at the colors. Look at the pose. I don't care that it has problems. This thing just makes me smile. When it stands upright, anyway.